you have a 3% chance that your resume is going to be seen. I would suggest better to research that company, go on their website maybe, and go through their website and email them directly. You're going to have a much better chance of getting in front of that employer.
I would agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. Hey Joe.
Hey, Todd, how you doing?
I'm all right.
What have you
Man. I'm
been
all right.
what have you been up to today?
I've been watching the news today. Apparently I shouldn't be smiling. Apparently my neighbor was murdered 3 nights
What?
ago. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Where were you?
2 doors down from me.
Where were
I have
you?
a solid alibi.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Ironclad.
Man.
Yeah, literally 2 doors down from me. I guess it was a domestic thing, which, you always assume it's always the husband or the wife, right? And sure enough, it was.
Wow. Were they going through a remodel?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. I do not know. But yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Man.
Command unit out here and cops and news cameras and all this stuff.
Holy cow.
Yeah, 42 years old. And she was she was an endocrinologist and had a 3-year-old kid. And dude, I guess hit her with a baseball bat in the head and then shot her in the stomach.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. And he claimed self-defense.
Wow.
I mean, draw your own conclusion, but I can poke some pretty immediate holes in that
Oh my
one.
gosh.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So.
Okay,
Crazy.
well, we had a cyclone bomb is what the news is calling it. Weather event in the Seattle land area over here. So I ended up spending the whole day today chainsaws and in hand and friend's house.
What kind of
Tree
chainsaw?
went down in the backyard.
Steel? Husqvarna? What do we got?
So no, I've gone to the battery operated one. I have the Makita, and it is fabulous. I have to tell you, if you don't have a battery operated chainsaw, so I have an old chainsaw that I stole from my dad and that I've had for years, and it's gas operated. But dude, you spend so much time, effort trying to get it started, and then when you do get it started, you can't let it quit, because if it quits, you're done. Like, there's no way you're going to get it started again. And sure enough, because there was a lot of tree down, so multiple chainsaws could be helpful. I could not get that thing started. So thank goodness that we had the battery operated one.
How many batteries are you putting in this thing at a time?
So that's how Makita's set up, which is kind of nice. So another dude showed up with a Ryobi chainsaw. Let's not go down that road. We know how the lime green is not my favorite.
So
So
he trimming hedges with it, or was he trying to cut a tree?
He was trying to cut a tree with it, and it's fine. I mean, it worked. But the point that I wanted to make was, you brought up batteries, and he had this thing was like a giant brick of a battery. And here I am with just my 2 little 18-volt batteries. And that's the beauty of the Makita setup, is I don't have to have a whole nother line of batteries and chargers for the 40-volt battery or the 80-volt battery or whatever volt battery they have coming out now, where you have to buy that whole line of batteries and chargers just for that one tool. I have 18-volt battery, and those batteries can fit anything that Makita puts out, including the chainsaw. So instead of making this giant brick of a battery, Makita goes, well, just use 2 of your 18 volts. Boom, done. Makes sense. Great. Love it, because I already have a ton of those batteries anyway. It's awesome. It is awesome. Yeah.
Now,
So
do they use
yeah,
one battery for miter saw and table saw? Is that a single battery operation or double? Do you know?
my miter saw and my table saw are both plug-ins, so I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they are set up the same way, where you just have 2 batteries set up.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. But yeah, pretty cool setup and worked great. And that's the reason why I ended up with a battery chainsaw, was because I just was tired of fighting with getting that thing started.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm done.
I
You
hear
know,
you.
the beauty
And
of
it
it,
got the job done.
Todd,
How big of a tree we talking? Like, what's the diameter of this tree, if you had to guess?
okay, so I have a 16-inch blade and on the chainsaw, and I was able to cut all the way through it, but with like maybe an inch or two. Like it was almost the full blade, but not entirely. So I don't know, a 14-inch maybe in diameter tree.
All right.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
not huge by
Yeah.
any means, but
But it's got some girth to it.
substantial.
So this got the job done.
Yeah,
All right.
yep,
Good to know.
yep.
Good to know.
So it worked. All right, what's our situation today, there, Todd?
I have no idea. What is the situation today?
I think we're talking about good resumes. Last
Good.
time we spoke, we talked about some bad resumes and kind of the silliness that we've seen on our resumes before. Yeah. So let's
Okay.
go over some good resumes, or we can just touch on, if you don't have any examples. I don't really have any examples of good resumes that stick in my head, but we can go over what we look for, or what we're looking for, what we want to see on a resume
Sure.
in this industry.
Well, I
I don't know,
guess my
some tidbits of knowledge, maybe, hopefully.
yeah. I
Otherwise,
guess
I
I
don't
guess
know.
my first off, I guess the last three job posts I put out were all for apprentices. Actually, I shouldn't say that. The last 3 hires I've had were apprentices. I have
Okay.
put out job posts for that, like 3 to 5 year carpenter, right? Like the guy who, what I've been looking for is that guy who has a basic knowledge, who's got basic set of tools. You have all your hand tools. You've got enough know-how where I can stick you in a basement for a week and you can hang pre-hung doors, case them out, trim them out, trim out the whole room, put on all the hardware and just do some little odds and ends. If you have to do extension jams on the windows or whatever, like just some nice sills and aprons, but you can get that done and I don't have to be there, right? I don't have to hold your hand. I don't have to babysit you. That's the guy I've been looking for. Actually, now that I look through, I was posting these on Indeed most of the time. And I had the last post I put out was in February of 2024. I got 27 candidates and I called 0 of them. So,
Really?
yes. So if that
Wow.
gives you any
Wow.
indication as to how difficult it is to find that 3 to 5 year guy, which I thought, I was offering a fair wage to start. And I put in that job post that, pay will raise quickly once I know, I forgot exactly how I worded it, but your pay will go up quickly once I know you're actually capable of what you say you're capable of. So if you're showing up with a work truck, you
Yeah.
have your tools, I give you a basic idea, scope of work as to what we're doing. Here's a set of plans, and you're just going to town. I'm going to raise your pay pretty quickly, but it's very easy to lie about that to get your foot in the door and then just kind of hope all goes well, you know? So based on the applications and resumes I got, I did not even make one phone call, which is kind of sad. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember back when I got hired, this is, I don't know, 20 years ago, when I was hired as a labor apprentice person. I was certainly much more knowledgeable than that, but the person who hired me at the time, he said something similar that you said, that resonated with me a little bit on where he's coming from and the position that he was in, which we find ourselves in now, is the resumes that he was seeing at the time, or basically what he alluded to was that every person he's talked to for a job has always elaborated on and exaggerated their skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody tells you that they can do it and they can do this and they can do that. But from his point of view, he said, I just have to see it. Like, everybody comes through this door and tells me that they can do everything. So I just can't rely on the truth coming from an applicant that I don't know. I just have to put them through the paces and see. But
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm not paying top dollar at the moment. I'd be happy to pay you, and the scale will go to something reasonable if you can show that you can do the things that we need you to do. So just telling me that you can do it isn't enough. Sure, I'll hire you, bring you on for $10 an hour, and then you tell me, or you show me what you're worth.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what happened. I came on as $10 an hour, and I knew I wasn't going to stay there. There was no way I was going to stay in a $10 an hour job. I knew that was my foot in the door, and that I was willing to take a lower pay to prove myself, because I trusted myself enough and I knew my own abilities that they were way more than worth $10 an hour. I guess there was a little trust that I had to put into the employer that he would stand behind what he says and that he's going to pay me. And he did, and rightfully so. And I think it was in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, he he ended up raising my pay to something that was much, much more substantial than $10 an hour. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, cool, great, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
and that works both ways, right? No,
it does work both ways.
You don't know what the boss is going to be like. You don't know what that position looks like day to day, and going in as the employee, and the employer certainly has no idea what you're actually capable of. I
think it's important that, as the applicant, try to put that in kind of perspective and try to put yourself in an employer's point of view or in their seat as well. And just know that you aren't going to get the, $50 an hour job right off the bat. Like, even if you're worth it, the employer's not, they don't know. And they're putting a lot of risk, putting you on a job site. There's a lot of safety risk. There's a lot of homeowner risk and all the other things that they're putting trust in you on their job site. So kind of put that in perspective. Now, I know we, as an employer, got to put yourself in their shoes as well. So it works both ways, for sure.
Yeah. One thing I will say is I have not hired anyone without taking them out to breakfast first. So when I've gotten to that point where, okay, like I said, the last 3 hires have been apprentices, but I'll tell them, okay, I'll tell them exactly what this looks like. And to your point, it's a foot in the door. I'm giving you an opportunity. What you make of that opportunity is 100% up to you. If you start really paying attention and working ahead and getting all the grunt work done and the labor, just general labor work done, cleaning up job sites, that gives you more time to actually learn, right? You're learning from me, you're learning from another carpenter, even an electrician or plumber, whoever else happens to be on site, right? But if you take them out to breakfast and just kind of sit down, casual, cup of coffee, have some breakfast, you guys ask a little bit of those questions of you just kind of feel that person out. What does their work ethic look like? What does this look like to them? What are their expectations walking into this job? Is it something that they see as temporary, or do they see this as a career and they really want to learn this? Do they like the idea of, building cabinets and doing something custom and kind of getting into creative design type work? Or do they just want to go in and like demolish a kitchen because it looks fun on HGTV, just swing a sledgehammer at walls without checking to see if there's plumbing or electric in those walls. That's a jab HGTV, but do that from time to time. So, you really get to feel that person out. And as an apprentice, it's easier if they show up on time and they're willing to learn and they're willing to put forth the effort, that can pan out pretty well, pretty quickly. On the flip side of that, I will say, I don't know why this came into my head, but the guy that I used to work for before I worked for myself, I remember him hiring a quote project manager, and this guy claimed he knew everything. He was a master carpenter. He could run multi-million-dollar projects. I mean, we were doing, custom homes and full whole house remodels with additions. So there's some pretty big involved projects. And the first day he showed up, he was wearing gym shoes, basketball shorts, and a Lakers jersey, and had a Black & Decker cordless drill. Can't make this up. I couldn't make this guy up. And I'm thinking, I'm sorry, you're the manager? You look like the least qualified person on the job site, And he walked in, he knew nothing. I mean, nothing. And it's just like, how on earth did you get this job? What questions did my boss even ask you just to vet you? And what did you put on your resume? Like, there's no way, like, how did you show up we were building an addition and you show up wearing like sneakers and gym shorts? Like, what? So, needless to say, I think he lasted till about 2 p.m. that first day. He was gone. He was absolutely gone. The lead carpenter on site just called my boss and said, I don't know what you just sent us, but there's no way we're working with this guy. So he was gone before the end of the day, But it's like, why even go down that road? Why lie when you're gonna get found out so quickly, So why even lie? Just say what you're capable of, put forth the truth, and more so, put forth like where you want to be, like where do you want to get to, And then maybe that works out. Maybe you're starting at a little bit of a lower tier, but if you really have the drive and initiative to get there, then maybe that company helps get you there. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Great example of what I was just talking about. How
I wish I had a picture of
you can put everything on your resume, but you just don't know. Speaking of shoe wear, I had just recently had a situation about shoe wear. I'm just really quickly, because you brought up sneakers. I often see sneakers on the job site, and we're okay with that. It just depends on look, if you're an apprentice and you're walking around in sneakers, that's not gonna fly. But if you know what you're doing and we all respect you and we all are well aware of your stuff, most of the time sneakers is fine. It's just a comfort thing at this point. I used to require steel toes and all that fun stuff. And honestly, when you're tiling and you're on your hands and knees, you can't wear steel toes. I'm gonna mucky up those tiles and with my steel toe rubbing up against them and everything. It just can't happen.
And they get heavy.
What I wanted to mention was this new plumber. We were trying out this new plumber, and so I set up a trade day. And so all my trades are showing up periodically throughout the day on the job site just to walk them through. And this new plumber shows up and he's wearing Crocs.
Nice. I was going to guess flip
dude.
Crocs. Awesome.
Crocs. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. Just so like nonchalant, no big deal. Walks in the house, got Crocs on. At least he took the Crocs off to walk through the house, which I was appreciative of. Man, I couldn't do it. I was like, come on, man. A little more professional.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little.
So I have no problem with gym shoes either. If you're doing interior easy work, like if you're putting in cabinets or you're doing tile setting and you're somewhere interior, then fine, wear something comfortable. I get it. You're up and down all day. You're on your feet all day. By all means, wear something comfortable that you're not going to get worn out. Steel toes, heavy boots. Yeah, It wears on you, makes you tired by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It's such a weird conversation about footwear and all that that I think we can get into in another episode because I really have
Probably.
strong feelings about that. So
Okay.
anyway, let's not get off on too much of a tangent because I do want to talk about resumes. So is there anything in particular that you remember that was really good? You had mentioned that you had 27 resumes that you have not seen or that you did not call.
Yes.
But was there anything particularly that stands out in a resume that you did call on that you thought looked great, that you can remember why it looked great to you or why you called on it?
And we may have touched on this last time, but to be honest, I think some of it is just sincerity, right? Where it's like, this is what I'm capable of. This is the experience I have, even if it's just very limited, but more so what your aspiration is. So I think if you're sincere and upfront and honest about it, that's going to strike a chord with me. And, at least I know you're not full of shit, So that to me goes a long way. If there is something along the lines of, let's say ideally, hypothetically speaking, let's say there was a perfect candidate right now and I may be hiring soon in 25. And again, looking for that same type of like 3 to 5 year or 5 to 7 year person. If you're going to check all those boxes that of all the things that I typically do, that's my bread and butter, so kitchen remodels, bathroom remodels, basements. So if you can tell me that you're doing interior framing, you're working with subs, you're used to having someone under you as a helper, like just having an apprentice kind of help you out with cuts or measurements or hauling stuff, and you're capable of keeping that person busy as well as kind of showing them the ropes a little bit while you're doing something, hanging high-end nice cabinets, being able to do nice scribes, cut in the crown moldings, really think ahead and lay out a full kitchen. If you can do all those things, essentially replacing me is what I'm looking for. If you can fill my spot,
Yeah.
and that frees up my
But
time
give
to
me
be
an
doing something
example.
else. An
Give me an
example of what?
example of what you want to see on a resume. I mean, you're
Like
painting a
specifically?
picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're painting a picture of the candidate that you want. That's great. But how does that candidate grab your attention on a resume?
Oh, I think you're going to have to be specific, right? So let's say instead of just saying like, I've installed cabinets and done interior trim work, if you were to tell me I've done 15 Dura Supreme kitchens and I've worked closely with a custom cabinet maker and done his installs for him and really get into detail as to what you've done. So if you're naming brands and you've worked with custom shops and you're capable of explaining that really well, really thoroughly, instead of just the generic bullet points of, I've installed many kitchens. Well, what kind of kitchen was it? Is it just, here's a box, here's a box, here's a box, and these are just Home Depot cabinets? I don't care. I can teach someone how to do that in 2 days. But if you're telling me that you've done very specific custom cabinets that are, frameless cabinets, flush scribes, just everything beautiful, seamless. Okay, now we can talk. Right?
All
Does that
right.
make sense?
So I heard, yeah. Let's elaborate a little bit. So I heard, first and most important, throughout the whole resume, you want this resume to feel the tone of it to be genuine.
Absolutely.
Is that fair? Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good takeaway there. So let's not make it sound like AI wrote it, and let's not make it sound like it's very dry and you're just listing a bunch of attributes. We want to really feel like there's a person behind the words.
Yes.
So genuine.
Yes.
And then I also heard that you want maybe to be specific. So I would suggest words that would describe the complexity of whatever it is you're doing. So you used cabinets as an example. I think that's really good because, like you said, instead of listing I do a bunch of high-end cabinets, how about listing some of the more difficult things that's required to do during a high-end remodel, and describe that. I'm capable of doing flush whatever, and scribes, that kind of thing, right? Just find a way to use description of something more complicated in the overall general thing that you're doing, like cabinets. Okay,
Yes.
you installed kitchen cabinets. Great. That doesn't mean much to us. But if you were to say that you installed cabinets including, crown molding and scribing to the walls, flush scribes, describing
And even
that you
doing
install
light rails and light rail panels where you have to
light
route out
rail
for
pocket. Yeah.
integrated lighting because that's just a modern seamless look, So
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of the point being is we do very detailed work. So if you're capable of doing all that detailed work and you have that experience doing all that detailed work, take a little bit of time to detail your resume. Give me a couple examples, even show me some pictures of like, hey, this is a kitchen that I did. Look how cool this is. Look at these like floor to ceiling panels that had to be perfectly cut because there was no trim going around them. Those types of things where you're like, okay, I know this person is actually capable of that because they've shown me examples or thoroughly explained what they're capable of doing.
That's a good point. And I think I could sum this up. Ask me if you agree with this. And stop listing bullet points as steps of your job. I install cabinets. I install base cabinets. I install upper cabinets. I install base trim. I install whatever. I install crown molding. Instead of bullet points in the sense of a series of steps that you do, how about more? I want bullet points to be your greatest hits album. Period. So just no more bullet points of step by step. Give me bullet points of your greatest hits. I want to know what your greatest hits album would sound like. And using small, detailed descriptions of something more difficult would mean that we already assume that you can do the easy stuff. We already got that. But you think that's a good one?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Put a little thought into it. Make yourself stand out.
Yeah. And I would also suggest in your resume, customize it to the job listing. I think that's just so simple and something you should do. What we don't want is a resume that's blanketed for the 50 different industries that you're applying for or whatever, just because you need a job. If that's you out there, stop doing that. And if that is, just so you know, if that's what you're doing out there in the like Indeed and all those out there, only 3% of your resumes are getting through to the employer.
Ooh.
Those mass resume where you upload your resume and then you click the button, let my resume be sent to suggested employers or whatever that is. Yeah.
Oh, right.
The statistic there is when you auto generate your resume through one of those to just shoot your resume out to all the job postings that you want, that you tell it to go, you have a 3% chance that your resume is going to be seen. I would suggest better to research that company, go on their website maybe, and go through their website and email them directly. You're going to have a much better chance of getting in front of that employer.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I think that's probably true. Plus, if you're doing that where they're just automatically sending it out, it's like you almost have to keep your resume somewhat generic and somewhat broad, right? So it's going to read that way. It's going to read generic.
And that's not what we're looking for.
Right. Yeah. You're going to fall in line with the 200 other applicants, you know?
Yeah. So make it relevant to the job that you're applying for. So again, your greatest hits album, but that greatest hits album has to be, the theme has to be whatever job description you're applying for. And then remember last week when we touched on the good stuff that we've seen, or the bad stuff that we've seen in resumes, remember we mentioned 10% of you, 100% relevant. Remember that. So just like your stop bullet pointing everything, and we want you to do more of a, your best hits, greatest hits album or whatever I said, we want to do that. But within that greatest hits album, only 10% of that of you needs to be 100% relevant to the job description that you're applying for. So I think this is all kind of blending together, meaning, yeah. All right. I also wanted to touch base on the resume like layout. So the very tippy top, usually there's a summary of what you're looking for, or what you are, or who you are, whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. There's usually an
I
objective
call it
at
like
the
the
top.
subjective summary at the top or whatever.
Yes, and you usually say objective. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, here's
Yeah.
the name, address, phone number, email, and then objective. And then top line. Yeah.
Okay. So that summary, I believe that summary shouldn't be like, I'm a detail-oriented person who's looking for a creative whatever in the remodeling industry. Right?
That's what was on the template.
No. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No. Ixnay that. So that summary should be a summary of your accomplishments. Like, give me 1 to 2 sentences of what you've done that is 100%, again, 100% relevant to the job description. That's what I think. Because to be completely honest, if that's boring, I might not make it past that summary.
Depending how many resumes you're reading through and how quickly you're looking for somebody, and you may not.
Yeah.
May gloss right over.
I was reading an article a while back about resumes, and I don't remember the statistic, but what caught my eye was the premise behind it was that majority of the resumes don't get fully read. So the hiring manager person who's reading these resumes, they're only making it a small percentage through your resume before they decide whether they're going to hire you or not. So that top part is really, really important, because I'm more than likely not going to make it a third of the way through before I decide whether I'm going to continue reading or not. So if you leave the most important stuff at the bottom, you're SOL. Especially when you put I've seen this done 100 times. They start their work experience with like the oldest stuff, right? In chronological order. No. So bad. Don't do that. Most relevant, right up front. Most recent, right up front.
Yeah. Right. That's true. You see that, and it's like, I don't want to, if you have a, job experience from 1984, I probably am not going to read any further.
Yeah.
Just because that's going to put you a little too old to do this job.
Hey, you're not going to discriminate against age there, Todd. You might want to back that one up.
Yeah.
That's all that's left out there with the experience you're looking for. You're gonna have to hire them.
Unfortunately, you got to poach.
I've been trying to hire you for the last 3 years. I don't know how much more coffee I can promise you.
You guys have like cyclone booms or something, or whatever the hell you called it. Like, it's bombs, cyclone bombs. I don't want to be around any cyclone bombs. I'll stick around here where people get shot and killed.
Yeah, just this. I was really shocked to hear that description as well. A cyclone bomb. I don't even know what that is. That sounded really bad,
Yeah,
but evidently it's just a bunch of wind.
yeah,
Yeah.
we get that all the time.
Yeah. All right. What else? You got anything else, or did we? I think we did a pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's all I got.
Anything else you want to? That's all you got. All right. Cheers.
Yeah,
Till next
cheers.
time.
All
Hope
right,
that helped everybody.
salud.
All right. Cheers.